Well, I'm joined today by Joel from Resound Worship to find out about a unique new worship resource that's themed around God, the environment, and our Christian calling to steward creation. Joel, I'm not sure that I'm aware of anything similar to this. I mean, back in the day, it would probably have been described as a concept album, but a whole collection of songs in a contemporary worship style designed for corporate worship and with this creation theming. Where did the inspiration or the idea come from?
Well, we're a group of songwriters. We're based across the UK, and we create songs for the church in a particularly sort of collaborative style. And one of the things that's led to is we spend quite a lot of time bouncing each other's songs back and forth and really trying to hone and refine the lyrics. And it sort of led us to develop a bit of a niche as the place you go to if you want a song about something. We don't necessarily do the big worship anthems. Other people do those really well. And so we're often thinking about the gaps in our repertoire. What are we not singing about in church that we perhaps ought to be singing about? And so that's one of the things we often dig into. And this was just one of those big, obvious gaps where I think in slightly more hymn singing traditions, there maybe is some stuff out there that's worth that can be sung, or in some folk traditions. But in the more sort of mainstream contemporary worship, this just is not a subject that comes up at all. I mean, nobody has done this. And we looked at it and thought, well, in our lives, we are making all kinds of changes to try and address the situation with the planet. But then we're going to church and we don't mention it at all. This is if nothing has changed. And I think we really believe in worship being not only a response to God, but actually being formative for ourselves. How we worship forms us. It really shapes our theology. I mean, we all know that, really, don't we? That the songs get stuck in our heads and they really shape how we think. And sometimes you can have, I mean, at best you could say this kind of theme of caring for creation is a bit absent from the songs. But at worst, you could say maybe there's a bit of a thread of a sort of dualism of, material things not good. Let's escape to heaven. Let's escape to the spiritual. And actually, the biblical message is not that at all. It's that heaven and earth come together. The renewal of all things, the restoration of all creation. And so we just thought, well, we'll have a go at writing this. And I love that reference to a concept album, because in a sense, yeah, that is what it is. We try to make it accessible musically so that it would really feel at home in contemporary worship. But the truth is, it is just taking an idea and just pushing it through a whole album. And there's a risk in it, but I feel pretty happy. I feel pretty happy with the outcome. There's a good kind of breadth of songs there.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So something about an integration of the everyday with some of the stuff that we sing about when we get together as Christians, and perhaps a bit of a disconnect as well between some of the things which we know are concerns for all of us, and particularly for Christians, and we have a particular reason to be concerned, but it just wasn't getting kind of the airtime in singing and that kind of side of corporate worship.
Yeah.
We're currently in the church's season of Creation Tide, and over the next couple of weeks, we'll play a few of the songs from the album across our various Leicester Diocese social media channels, give people a chance to have a listen to them. But I was interested, listening to all of them the other day, they give voice to a range of themes, and they're in a range of styles. And there's kind of up-tempo stuff, there's thoughtful stuff, celebratory, lament, it's all in there. Can you give us a bit more of an idea, perhaps, of the range of subjects and emotions and moods that you cover in the collection?
Yeah, I mean, I should say that when we first started, it's been about a 2-year project. When we did our first attempt at this, we wrote 7-verse epics that contained everything you could possibly want to say about creation, climate change, eschatology, throw it all in there, because almost like we had so much to get off our chests. I definitely find that songwriting is a processing thing as well. Sometimes just to get to grips with something, I write a song about it. And so we did that quite a lot early on. And it's only after having got those out of the way, we could then begin to focus in a little bit more precisely and say, no, this song is going to be about this song is going to be about that. And then I found they naturally shaped into these 3 categories, which slightly by coincidence map really nicely onto something Walter Brueggemann has done, he's an Old Testament scholar, particularly known for his work on the Psalms. And he talks about the Psalms as there are 3 types of Psalms: those of orientation, those of disorientation and of reorientation. So the orientation ones say, isn't the world wonderful? Isn't God wonderful? Look how it all works. The disorientation says, Lord, what is going on? Everything's crumbling around me. And reorientation says, I've been rescued, I've been saved, I have a new hope, and this kind of thing. And we realize that's our story with this issue. It's a story of, on the one hand, trying to write songs which celebrate what God has done, celebrate the creation, celebrate the way he has set things up, the way he sustains, the beauty, the glory, the way he involves us, and all these kind of things. But there's also the songs which lament, which confess, which cry out even in desperation, which say, one of the songs on the album says, "Are you Lord after all?" Looking at climate chaos, like the disciples in the boat. Do you even care, God? When you look at this, so there's those kind of ideas, and the sense of the groaning of creation, and actually, with the celebration, we worship, we praise with all creation. In this bit, we groan with creation, we join in the cry of creation. And then the really important thing that the world can't do is the hope, and that is that we have this hope in Christ, and it's a hope of what is to come, but it absolutely shapes who we are and what we are today. So it's the hope that actually God hasn't given up on creation, that he will restore all things, that, as Paul says in the New Testament, that our labor is not in vain. So actually we can confidently say, come on, let's do something about this, because the biblical story, the sort of the mission of God and the mission of God's people, is one of partnership, of one mission. So if we join in the mission of God and we love him, we love the world that he's made, then we can sing of this hope, and we've got a unique message to put out there. And so we found this kind of variety of songs. It makes for a good album, but it's actually quite useful if you want to use them in your worship, especially in a more liturgical context, where you can say, well, look, here are the praise, the glory ones, here are the confession and the intercession ones, and then here are the let's go out and do something about this, or let's look to our future hope songs.
Fantastic, yeah. And I know then it's kind of come out a little bit just in the answers you've given already, but I know that you guys at Resound Worship are very much about local contexts, a kind of worship that actually works corporately in church services or meetings or gatherings. You've not only brought out an album and song lyrics and sheet music and all that kind of normal stuff, but you've also brought out some small group resources to run alongside the songs. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I said it was quite a long process for it. It was about 2 years from start to finish, which also, actually, I have to say, did involve inviting submissions from people all over the world to distill down to this bunch. But pretty early on, we just had to acknowledge as a group, we don't know that much about this. We know some of these buzzwords like stewardship and creation and so on. But the reality is that the church has been catching up with the world on this. It's not the other way around. We can't claim, I mean, there have been some individuals and some small pockets, but we can't really claim that we saw the whole creation, climate, ecology issue and have taken the lead. There's a lot of catching up, and some of that is catching up theologically and just trying to figure these things out, and actually then digging into the Bible and saying, wow, if you do actually dig into the Bible, there's an awful lot that it has to say to us about this. And so, early on we thought, well, let's not just jump into writing. Let's get some, we got some books, some academic papers. We read them. We had little online seminars together to really try and get our heads around these ideas. So we didn't want to get it wrong. We didn't want to say outdated things and so on. And a big part of it was just trying to join the dots of creation care and worship, loving what God has made and loving God, and that those things should go together. And it sort of seems obvious when you say it like that, doesn't it? But that meant joining it up, thinking theologically, but also digging into the Bible passages and trying to see what the Bible had to say. And I think by the end of it, we just thought, well, there's more than just these songs. You could shove these songs in, but you wouldn't necessarily have a sort of a context within your own understanding or discipleship. So how about we come up with a book with a chapter for each song, short Bible study, Bible passage, some questions, and then we just sort of chanced our arm a bit and dropped a line to several people who we knew were experts and said, would you do a chapter for us? And it's been wonderful. So we have actually got a forward and a chapter from people from Russia, one from Tear Fund, one from Christian Climate Action, and then we've also got some one or two sort of very well-respected scholars like David Taylor in the States and Jeremy Begbie, who's a British scholar, as well as one or two of our writers, just to we want to give either individuals who might just want to do it as a devotional, it's 13 chapters, or maybe small groups who would say, yeah, let's all get a copy, let's read it and discuss it and study it. Or even if a church said, we want to have a series of services, not primarily to introduce Doxecology songs, but they could do, and but to explore this kind of thing, it would give a good context. So we actually put 3 service outlines in the back as well, which include some prayers and all age activities and other stuff. We just handing over a bunch of songs is good, but sometimes actually it's the model of our worship which needs to shift around a bit to make space to put this stuff in. So we're trying to help with that a bit as well.
Fantastic. Love that idea. Well, look, folks out there, it would be really good. Why not have a look at the website for Resound Worship? But also, if you type Doxecology, that's the name of the album. If you type Doxecology into a search engine, you will actually find it's got its own page, some really cool artwork as well. And have a look at this stuff and see, might these songs, might this study material work in your context to help you as you think about creation, the way it points us towards its creator, and our responsibility as Christians to steward that for which God has made us responsible. Joel, thanks ever so much for joining us. It's been great talking to you.
Pleasure. Thank you, John.